Let me read to you a passage from the 23rd chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 1 to 12. It's the Gospel for Saturday of the 20th week in Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, "Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, 'The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must obey them and do everything they tell you. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for men to see. They make their phylacteries wide and the tassels on their garments long. They love the place of honour at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted in the marketplaces and to have men call them Rabbi. But you are not to be called Rabbi, for you have only one master and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth your father, for you have only one Father, and he is in heaven. Nor are you to be called teacher, for you have only one teacher, the Christ. The greatest among you will be your servant. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." That's from Matthew chapter 23, verses 1 to 12. What does it suggest to us? Well, there is a tension between man's moral practice and his moral sense. And we're all aware of this. For instance, in his practice, man strongly tends towards self-exaltation. As we think of the rise and fall of dominions in history, or the pattern of wars and various conflicts in human society, or the clash of personalities in various contexts, be they the family circle, the workplace, or wherever, self-exaltation is obviously a prominent and ever-recurring factor. In the thought of Friedrich Nietzsche, who lived from 1844 to 1900, the will to power has a central place in the universe, and in particular in humankind. Schopenhauer had regarded the entire universe and everything in it as driven by a primordial will to live. Nietzsche, however, challenged Schopenhauer's thesis and urged that people and animals really want not so much life as power. Life is for the promotion of one's power, and people and animals risk their lives for the sake of gaining power. Nietzsche looked to the Greek heroes and masters who wanted power and glory, and in his writings he mentions the frequent Greek theme of agon, or contest. Strangely, Nietzsche's unfortunate writings have been influential in postmodern thought, and one result of his emphasis on the will to power is that this drive to gain power, so obvious in fallen man, has been given a certain moral legitimacy. There is no doubt that the will to power accounts for much of man's moral practice, but it scarcely needs the backing of Nietzsche to perceive this. Man seeks power in order to be greater and higher. He wants to be the top dog, as is often expressed. That having been said, man's moral sense has no difficulty in seeing that this desire for self-exaltation, so recurrent and so influential in his life, is morally illegitimate. Self-exaltation ought not be the driving factor in his life and in the life of society. He can see this, and if it is exposed in his life, it shames him and it causes him remorse. It is an instance of what St. Paul says in his letter to the Romans, that I do not do what I want to do, but what I hate. Chapter 7, verse 15. Man's natural conscience is capable of seeing that self-exaltation as the motive of action is morally wrong. Whatever be the religion or the philosophy of a prudent and moral person, he will not approve of actions that are driven by mere self-exaltation. We could say that this is the voice of nature and the voice of mankind, and being the voice of nature and mankind, it is the voice of the author of nature and the author of mankind, God. It is also the voice of God as it is revealed in his historical revelation, and more specifically in the person of Jesus Christ, his divine Son. In fact, God's revelation reveals that at the heart of the universe and at the heart of being there is a law of self-abnegation. The tendency towards self-exaltation is a sign of a great decay, a great deterioration. The truly life-filled law is that of self-abasement. St. Paul writes that the Son of God possessed the very glory of God, but he did not cling to this, but emptied himself of it, and became as men are, and indeed humbler still, even to death on a cross. God's path was not one of self-exaltation, but of self-abasement. True glory consists in and is attained by the denial of self. In the life and death and teaching of Jesus Christ, there is revealed the life and nature of God. God is revealed to be humble, not proud. Come to me, our Lord says, and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. Now, he is the image of the unseen God. And he said to his disciples that he who sees me sees the Father. He, meek and humble as he is the only way to the Father. In our gospel today, our Lord makes all this very explicit. As we heard, the greatest among you will be your servant, for whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, and he teaches and shows humility and lowliness, not self-exaltation. He teaches humble service, not the desire to be served. So then, we must learn as quickly as possible that the way of Christ, cutting right across the path naturally taken but not approved of by man, is to be the daily path of life. We are to follow in his footsteps, the way of self-abnegation, not the way of self-exaltation. Let us recognize the natural tendency of our practice. It is towards exalting ourselves. Let us also recognize that this is wrong. Let us look to Christ and to his teachings, which hold up the path of humility before God and others, exalting God and others in God. Our Lord humbled himself even to death on a cross, and for this God raised him high above all other names. Jesus Christ teaches the path to true glory, that glory that is found in him.